Welcome, Helen Muller, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. And today I have you on as a entrepreneur coach. And there's so many people right now getting ready to start businesses or getting ready to start something in their life, and they might need a little bit of guidance. I know for me, when I started off my business, it was something that I didn't have much guidance in because no one in my family has started a business. And if I had a coach at that time, I eventually went off and got a business coach. But at that time, I mean, I had so many ups and downs that I could have avoided if I had the right coach. So, without me telling everyone what you do, please tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help.
Thank you, Michael. Well, hi, everybody. I am Helen, as he said, and I'm also a DNA upgrade specialist. So I work on the mental health of entrepreneurs, not so much on the business side. Of course, there's always, different aspects for every person, but I specifically work on the mental health, and I use this technique called DNA upgrade, which is one of 5 natural biohacks, which I use with my coaching. Now, natural biohack is just working with the body and only using the body. So no, other products or anything to live a super efficient life. And then, yeah, as I said, specifically, I work now with the dinner upgrade.
Okay. So you said that there's 5 different biohacks and DNA upgrade is one of them. What are all 5?
Like my journey kind of started where I was looking for the answer to happiness. And I found it after a 10-year search. I started that when I was 16. And that's the first biohack. It's kind of a meditation technique, but I got it through it's like an ancient technique from India. When you practice this, you feel who and what you are. So that's the first one. And then the other ones also kind of developed on my own journey. I suffered from severe anxiety. So I was trying out a lot of things, my journey, and also to get rid of these mental blocks that I have. Now, the second one is neurofeedback, where it's also a natural. I don't know if you know anything about neurofeedback. That's when you do it with equipment, but you read the natural electrical activity of the brain, and then also change it in a natural way. And then the third one is EFT tapping, which is the emotional freedom technique. You might have heard of that. It's just regulating the emotional energy. Then fasting is a natural biohack that I work with. I've done up until 116 hours without any food or water. And then the last one is the DNA upgrade. And we can talk a little bit more about that as well. You can ask some questions.
Yeah, so DNA upgrade is what we're going to be focusing on today, but I wanted the audience to know that there was different ones that they can look into after this episode because your specialty is that DNA upgrade. So I really do want to break that down for people because a lot of people, they are going to start their journey with a similar question. Am I happy, or what is happiness? Some of the other ones they might ask themselves is, what is my purpose, or what is my why? So people begin that journey of, all right, I want to make some improvements or changes in my life, but I don't have any direction. How does the DNA upgrade provide direction for people who are looking for the answers of whether they want to be happy, whether they want to find fulfillment and purpose, or just understanding their why?
I think like to break it down, so people understand exactly what it is. It's exactly what it says. It's just you're upgrading your DNA. You're making it better. You're giving like more information, updated information. If you think about you want to upgrade your house, for example. Now your DNA is only a blueprint. Now imagine you have a blueprint of the house, right? And you want to add an extra room because now your needs have changed, right? So now you have the new blueprint with the extra room. You actually need to build that extra room. It doesn't just help to have the blueprint. Now, we are the same, our bodies are the same. So our DNA is only a blueprint. But what is important is how the readout of these genes is. That's the important part. So what I do through this technique, it's energy psychology, and I work with kind of coded light language, where I then send new information to the genes so that the readout of the genes is different, so that then you can create those building blocks to then improve. So upgrade is like improve your life or then reach your goals. And there's another part to it that I work with. It's the mental blocks. So what prevents people from actually making these improvements in their lives? As you say now, that the question you asked is like, what is my purpose? You want to make an improvement, but you don't exactly know what your purpose is. Or, you want to be happy, but you don't have that information. So what I do is I just like open up your eyes, or it's just kind of like increase the vibration so that you have access to that information, like a new view.
Okay. So almost like an enlightenment type of process.
Yeah, it's also based on science, Michael. So I mean, I focus a lot on science. So it's focused on the science of epigenetics. Because if you say enlightenment, again, people are going to think like from a spiritual perspective, right? And then it's going to be like all gone, like unenlightened. What does that mean, really? But it's based on the science of epigenetics, and epi means above the genes. So it's about that science, epigenetics, and again, it just gives like empowers people to know that this is your body and you've got your DNA, but what are you doing with it? Maybe some people might relate with this. We have like 12-strand DNA, but in our physical form, we might only we've got 2 strands, we might only get up to 3, but we still have those 12 strands. But they're like in higher, like in the spiritual realm, which is, or in different like levels of consciousness. And this is also accessible because we are made of light, we are made of energy. And this has also been proven by science. So it is very scientifically based.
Would you say it's akin to neuroplasticity?
Not really, no, because that's specifically to do with the brain again. And what makes the DNA upgrade different is because when you get these electrical signals from your environment, right, you pick it up with your 5 senses and then it gets translated through the central nervous system, through the brain. But what I do is I bypass that because that's like based on your programming from age 0 to 7. I wouldn't say it's directly connected to that, but yeah, maybe depends on how you look at it. Do you feel so?
As it is neuroplasticity?
Yeah. Does it ring true to you?
Well, neuroplasticity, again, I think you said it right, where neuroplasticity is dealing with the brain and how you're thinking. And of course, you're going to have your future, your past, your present, right? So if you were a kid and you had traumas and those traumas are holding you down or holding you back, then the process of neuroplasticity of changing that hardwired pathway that you created is that, right? But I think what you do as a DNA upgrade specialist is just understanding more so about the body, not just the mind. Just diving into that, I think there is a difference. It's just that we have to do our best to say, well, when you're doing your DNA upgrade, this is what we're going to be expecting. Like, what are some of the side effects that happen after someone works with you? They finally say, okay, I'm going to upgrade my DNA. What is the end result or the beginning results that they begin to feel or notice?
Well, there's sometimes rapid results. Some people manifest something very quickly because if you think about it, like once these blocks are removed, then it's like a space opens up. And then depending on the person as well, that's why I offer like a 3-month program to kind of for the integration as well. When the space opens up, it's also up to you then to fill it with something. So some people are more naturally inclined to, maybe be positive. So they kind of manifest very quickly and fill that space very quickly. I don't know if you watch the video testimonials, but, some people manifest money or, some big change in their relationship. But for many people, it's just the thing of connecting with their higher self and having a broader view. And also it changes over time. Like people just start seeing things differently. And like one of the things that they start feeling is just a sense of well-being, just a lightness. And then, manifestations could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything, but it's also like a detox of the body. During the session, there's physical sensations of like tingling feeling, maybe a buzzing feeling. Somebody I just did a session with last week, they're experiencing kind of like a continuous calibration, like a physical feeling where they feel like their body is being physically calibrated the whole time. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Everybody's different, but yeah, there's physical sensations, and then there's also just kind of all of a sudden people they're just able to reach their goals much faster, or just able to see things that they were never able to see before.
You said early on, like if they have a block, then, just understanding that block and getting past it. I want to maybe just give a little bit about what I do in mindset. So when people come to me, they have a block, and that block is going to be either themselves, a belief that they hold, aka limiting beliefs, right? So what we do here at Reven Concepts is we focus a lot on limiting beliefs. So that is the block that people have, right? They have that block of limiting beliefs that they believe that they can't do something, or they believe that they are not going to surmount to anything in their life, or that they don't deserve something with low self-esteem, right? So those are the blocks that they're facing. Those are the blocks that I typically work with individuals. The whole process of what I do with mindset and then getting them past that block of the limiting belief is making them believe. Because if you can have that belief, the only thing you have to do is put it in your conscious mind and then begin to manipulate and change your subconscious mind. So at that point, the more you believe, then you can start to achieve, right? Napoleon Hill, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. That type of process. If you don't believe it, then of course it can happen, right? Maybe by luck, but it takes the crazy individuals in this world to really make something. Think about the Wright brothers, right? When they were making their aircraft, everyone said, "Oh, you guys are just wasting your time. You're never going to be able to fly in the sky." But look what they did, right? They had a bunch of people who didn't believe in them, but they believed in themselves. They said, "I know we can do this, right? Let's work together. Let's find the people who support us." So they have like-minded people around them. So we can achieve great things in our life. Sometimes we just have those limits. So I just help people understand that if you have limits, how can we begin to break down those blocks or those barriers or those walls or those obstacles, whatever you want to call them, and then start to make the way for what you think you can do. And it might start off with, I think I can, and then I know I can, right? But it starts with that process. Do you have a similar process when you're working with someone and they're doing that DNA upgrade and you're breaking down those blocks that they have, where in the beginning they might be a little bit skeptical, but then they start to believe because this is happening for them?
I would say that kind of process with breaking down and reframing beliefs I use in the coaching aspect, what I do. So as I said, is, I have a 3-month program, or even if people have like more than one session, then I also deal with these things. But in the session itself, it's a completely intuitive process. The client doesn't do anything except for just enjoy it. And it's a kind of, what I said before is I completely bypass that process of you having to think, which is sometimes, what kind of trips people up, because as soon as they start thinking, yeah, I know I'm worthy. Why wouldn't I think I'm worthy? Like, it doesn't make sense, but I'm manifesting. So that's why it's tricky. And that's why these kind of energy psychology things are so effective, because the client doesn't have to think about what they need to do. They can't get it wrong. And it's just that they just feel that part of themselves, that higher consciousness part of themselves. So it's kind of like you meeting yourself, and then it's you communicating. Like one of the client testimonials, one of the video testimonials actually says it really well. She says she felt like she's communicating to herself, which is essentially what it is. But there's your higher mind, which has the clear view. If you think about, like standing on top of the hill, you're down in the valley. You can't see what's going on with your mind, like so busy telling what you should think, what you shouldn't think, and all these thoughts constantly. You don't even know what's going on most of the time. But when you have that higher perspective and the mind is quiet in that moment, then that information from that higher perspective can just come through. And that's then what is sent to the genes. Yes, I use that type of reframing of beliefs, obviously, to integrate it, to help the person along, but that kind of removal of the blocks, just to kind of give it a boost. That's why it's a biohack. That's why, because it just kind of gives that boost, because sometimes people struggle for years, lifetimes, to change one limiting belief, and they never get there, or it takes a long time.
My brother, he has a company with an Anju light. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's called an
Mm-hmm.
Anju light, and it's based off the flicker principle. And so you go under a light, and then the light just flickers. And it's a white light. It's not different colors, but everyone who does the light, they say they see all these different colors and they go on different journeys. So when they're done with the light, then it's like they went on that journey. I'm not sure if the DNA principle is like the Andrew light, but comparing them, just from hearing you speak, it sounds like they do have some similarities, because it's not just coaching, it's that rewiring of your DNA, where they go under that light and the light does a lot of the work, where their mind is going through the process, but then I believe their body is starting to change too. Is your process like using audio? So they're listening to audio, or they watching videos, and then that's where the process begins? Because if it's not so much of the coaching process, is it like an auditory or maybe like a feeling process that begins to make that change for the DNA?
I do it over a call, no video, and I just kind of bring the person in a safe space. I would say, like, just like bring their brain waves down, kind of a hypnotic state. And then, yeah, I mean, I do the process where I then channel these light codes and then I target. I can remotely feel where a person's blocks have manifested in their body. So we do like a body scan and I can feel where the blocks are. And then specifically I can work with those areas to clear it, but at the same time to send this information to the genes. So it's kind of like a twofold process, but everything is just me talking and the person is just enjoying and like experiencing what it feels like. And usually it takes 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And it's like guided meditation, maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's almost like guided meditation. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So meditation, right? The power of meditation. How long have you been meditating?
Wow, I don't know. Maybe when I was in high school, maybe when I was in high school, I started, but it never worked for me. Meditation never worked for me because I would just like, my mind would be so active and I would just start thinking about things. And sometimes I would get so upset because I would just feel like I'm wasting my time, right? So, but then when I found that ancient Indian technique, then it changed for me. So I kind of say it's like meditation, but it just stops my mind completely. So then I don't have that problem with mind interference. And do you meditate?
I do. So in the morning, that's the first thing I do. And it doesn't have to be like me sitting down crisscross and saying, okay, I'm going to do meditation. I do different types of meditation, whether it be walking meditation, in the gym meditation, yoga meditation. So there's different areas. And I always recommend people just to slow down in the beginning and find a nice quiet space because there's so much going on. And if you don't know how to block things out, it might be difficult in the beginning because if you're just there left with your thoughts, sometimes our thoughts are just like a faucet of water that's on and it's just so much. When I work with people and when they begin the meditation process, that's what they are saying, right? There are just so many thoughts and they say they did bad. I go, no, 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 you didn't do bad. It's just that you just don't know how to corral your thoughts yet. And when you can corral your thoughts a little bit better, then you can be more concise in what you do. So in the morning, you can make a greater impact maybe because you can do all the important things in the morning and maybe in the evening, you can start to do maybe some of the less important things because by the end of the day, decision fatigue has kicked in and maybe you're tired, right? It's a lot of thinking. Everyone is different, right? Some people love to meditate in the morning. Some people love to meditate in the evening. I love to meditate in the morning. It just sets me up for success for that day. But you do have to find what works for you when it comes to meditation. And then, of course, there's so many different types, right? Like you can go to yoga. I did Bikram yoga
Oh,
for
I
some
love
time.
Bikram. I
Bikram yoga
love it
is
so much.
amazing. And the reason why I love Bikram yoga is because you're not only going in there doing postures and moving your body, but you're having a 90-minute conflict with your mind. You're like, I'm going to die in here. That's literally what Bikram yoga
Oh,
is. It's like,
yeah.
all right, you're gonna go into a room and you're gonna die maybe because the brain is like sending off all these panic signals, and you have to know your body. Every day is different because some days you can
Yeah.
do amazing and some days you're just not there. So appreciating your body. And again, there's different types of yoga. Bikram yoga is not for everyone. So I don't want people to say, oh, Bikram yoga, and they go to Bikram in the first session, they're on the floor. They try to run out of the room. Don't run out of the room because you'll probably pass out. So
But it's
understand
good,
what you're
yeah.
getting into. So yeah, there's just so many types of meditation. And I always tell people to find the meditation that works best for them.
Yeah, I like the thing about Bikram yoga that I like is it's kind of that extreme thing again, right? It takes a lot of mind focus to, really make it through the session. But I love that. I love that kind of endurance. It's all about endurance, isn't it? And your mental strength as well.
And then the journey too, because if you just think about the journey, when you start to maybe a month in, you can see when you first started, you might have been a little bit more stiff. You couldn't do some postures. And then now you're starting to do a little bit more postures, go a little bit more deeper into the poses. And that's just the process of Bikram, right? You're loosening up, you're limbering up. Is there a process where you're working with people with the DNA specialization and they start to become more limber, become more malleable, almost like putty, where it's like I can change myself to whatever I want now
You mean during the session?
or
During the session
after.
or after? Well, during the session, it does kind of like it's a very relaxing thing, and even afterwards, people do feel like sometimes they just want to go and take a nap. afterwards. So yes, I mean, it does, it's extremely relaxing process. And afterwards, yeah, again, it works on everything. So if a person, I always say, like, people might come to me with, I want to remove this block. And I said, just trust the process, because your higher mind knows exactly what you need, to kind of remove these things. So if it's something to do with your body physically that you need to change, and it's preventing you from actually moving forward in your life at that point, then that would be like, the first thing. Say for a person who's really stressed out or kind of tense all the time, it could very well, be their first effect. But during the process, it's extremely relaxing. Yes, like literally your whole body kind of relaxes. Yeah.
Is it like being in a salt cave? Because I know like people, they'll go into salt caves and they'll just go into those zero gravity chairs and they just are laying on those chairs and they have all the Himalayan salt around and it's supposed to be energy and things like that. And I remember I went to one and I didn't really feel any different. But again, I was already doing I was already doing a lot of Bikram at the time. So like I was already in a really good state of mind. So me going into the room, it was cool. I'm not going to say it wasn't cool, but I really didn't get a benefit from it. I know some people talk about it, but I think that's just them just taking a moment and just sitting down and being quiet and being still and going through their thoughts and looking at their body, because so many people are just so busy. They just rush through their day and they don't worry about their body. They don't look at what they're putting in their body. And by the time something goes wrong, they go, oh, this is broken. I need to fix it. Right. For me, I was already good. So when I went into that process, it was something like, okay, well, this is just not working for me. Not saying it's not cool, but I think a lot of people are at that point where they just don't pay attention. And I think some of the work that you do, it helps people slow down, to appreciate, to look at, internalize, and then begin to change certain things, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I think what has also been happening is, and it's a danger as well. And I mean, for me, what is an important part of my work as well is I aim to increase human intelligence. Because if you think about it, when you have this upgrade of information, or when you have access to this updated information that you didn't have access to before, you do increase your human intelligence. So I aim to increase human intelligence to aid in the positive evolution of artificial intelligence. And to come back to your question, there is, I think there's a real danger for people where we have become so numb to like energy essence, because we are made of light. We are like, I think it was physicist David Bohm who said, we are frozen light. I think we have become so used to kind of this earthly body and this earthly experiences, and what we should do is that people they don't know themselves, they don't know that part of themselves. So this process kind of also kind of helps people to reset, just to have that memory again of, wait a minute, there's actually more to me. Wait a minute, there's parts of me, like my DNA, that I'm not even conscious of this, but this is what is making my building blocks. So how, it's kind of beneficial to me to be more conscious of this and see, actually what can I do to improve this process? Because we have been taught that our genes control our biology. In other words, if your mother has a cancer gene, you have the cancer gene, or the chances are good that you will have cancer. But it's not true. I might have the cancer gene and you, Michael, might have the cancer gene, but it doesn't mean that we need to express this cancer gene. And the empowerment comes in, and that's where epigenetics also comes in, the science which this is based on, is our power comes in where we can actually kind of, regulate this process, where these signals are coming in, is how we're going to express these genes. I think it's important that we need to find ways to connect with that parts of ourselves more often, kind of not coming from the intellectual, because we've got a logical intellect and our intuitive intellect. And a lot of people are not developing the intuitive intellect, focusing so much on the logical intellect. Okay, it should be like this because the book says this, and let me read this, and let me do this, and let me fill my day up with all these processes and steps and things. And, because then I had a good day, I've lived a good life. But we're neglecting that, there's just part of ourselves that we also need to invest in.
You're right, because if we look at the school system is very logical. Read this book and then recite this information. And they do that for the better part of 18 years for that's their whole life in the beginning. And then it's not until they're adults in their 20s and 30s, they realize something is wrong. They're like, okay, something is not right, right? Yeah, they have the logical aspect, all done and packed in. but their intuitive part of paying attention, right? Many people don't even know about themselves or about what they're capable of, the human potential or what they're capable of, or just knowing their body. So that intuitive nature can be added at a young age. What would you say to, I guess, parents, because teachers are, they have their hands full in the school already doing the logical aspect. How can parents begin to apply that in raising a child, being more intuitive? And so when that child is in their teens and then becoming an adult, is already familiar with the body rather than, I don't even know who I am.
It's a difficult question because, like being a parent is not an easy job. And then it starts with that parent, because even in the womb, you're already reading, you're already getting signals. You're already starting to form yourself. So if you've heard about this before, if the mother kind of, if there's anything wrong with the parents, then not wrong, but if there's anything dysfunctional, it directly becomes your reality, you're going to have to deal with this. I think it's just parents just need to, and I think they do it in any ways. That's why it's such a difficult question. You just have to take care of yourself in the best way that you can. And you love is a very powerful vibration. So even if you don't know about intuition or about ways, or maybe you're very busy, maybe you need to work hard to, put food on the table. But at the end of the day, I think everybody has the ability to love, to express love rather than create fear. I think those are the two basic things, love and fear. Rather than to create fear in their children, is to just shower them with love if they don't know. If they don't know how to, all the other things, or maybe they're not into the spiritual stuff or into the intuitive stuff or things like that, but everybody can love, isn't it? And then you set yourself then you do set the child up for, they can then decide for themselves at a later stage how to fix these things if needs be.
Yeah. There's a popular saying, it's like, I think Frederick Douglass, he says that it's easier to build strong children than to heal broken adults. So, like, building strong children is a mission of mine because, yes, when I was a teacher and I saw the students, right, I knew that they were eventually going to break, right? It's kind of like if you have a cat, for example, right? Cats like knocking things off shelves. I don't know why, but if you have a vase, right, and the cat just, every day just nudges the vase a little bit more to the edge, right? Eventually, the cat's going to knock the vase over. What is happening as they grow up, just learning every grade, they're getting closer to that edge, and eventually they're going to have a breaking point. Now they can have that breaking point where they fall, hit rock bottom, or they can have a breakthrough where they finally realize that there's more. It depends on, again, so many factors that has to happen, right? What type of parents do you have? What type of beliefs do you have, right? Do you have low self-esteem or high self-esteem? Do you have a lot of limiting beliefs, or do you have low limiting beliefs, right? Do you meditate? Do you focus, right? Do you plan? There's so many different factors that have to be looked at. So to give a blanket saying, all right, this is how we fix it, it's going to be very difficult because there's so much hardship, trauma happening continually, whether we like it or not. Kids are going to have some type of hardship. For example, divorce, right? The child has no say in that marriage, right? It's going to be between the dad and the mom. So if they separate, that's going to have a severe mental impact on that child. Now, do the parents want that for that child? I don't think so, right? Like, I don't think any parent is like, I'm doing this so I can hurt you. It's just something that the two adults, they say, this is just not working, and they separate. Marriage is a different aspect to it. But I'm just giving an example of how we can grow up as a child, and we can have so many different traumatic experiences, and we have to be able to handle them, right? We have to be equipped to handle them. And if we are not equipped, if we're not strong, then that's when we have to begin to change later on as an adult, heal as an adult. And I believe that the process that you're talking about, right, this DNA changing, is that not only helping them with their past, but also their present, or is it more so their future?
Yeah, I think all of it, because in essence, there's only this moment. But I have found that what happens is, and then I use that with my integration process as well, is it's not, the past becomes less important. Because if you think about it, so, and a good example we can use now about this divorce. Generally in the world, it's like this is a bad thing, right? Parents should stay together, people should stay together. But in reality, that's not really the truth. It could work really, it could work out really well, if they were not happy. I don't know many people who's been through divorces and the children were happy in their new families, because the mom and the dad were no longer. There's so many variables, for example. But in this process of the DNA upgrade, when you have this different view of life in general and of your life, some things which used to be like a big deal to you, it's no longer a big deal because you can see the bigger picture. So something that might have been traumatic, you might have turned something as, okay, this was a trauma in my childhood. And your whole life, you're like, okay, I'm never going to get through this. I'm never going to get over this. This is just my life and this is my story. And, like a little bit like victim mode, in a way. Then now you're like, okay, well, that happened. So, you don't have actually even think about it. It's almost just like, okay, it's something that happened. Maybe the way I thought I perceived I experienced it was not actually what happened. You see what I mean? Like if you start thinking differently, and that empowers you. So, and this kind of, I believe also because of the tools I've been working with, this is the view that I have, which kind of gives you a little bit of slack. It gives you a bit of leeway. It doesn't make life so serious. But again, that comes with that. The thing is, on earth, we have forgotten who we are, right? And we have been made to believe that we are not worthy. And unfortunately, the world is kind of rewarding this limited thinking, right? Because, say, for example, in the intuitive versus the logical thinking, if you're more logically brained, usually that's the people who make a lot of money, kind of like working like crazy, workaholics, they have kind of the logical brain, but they maybe not as introspective, maybe not thinking about real inner fulfillment and those type of things. But again, the world is rewarding the other side. So it does make it a little bit more challenging, I suppose. But yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, there's just so many paths that we can go down. And change is just not a one size fit all type of thing, right? What works for me for change might not work for you. And I always tell people that one coach that works for me might not work for you, right? So there's just different people that are going to resonate with different people. I know I can't change everyone's mind. And I'm sure you also know that you can't change everyone's mind too, right? Because that's just personality, right? If they're in the right mindset at the time, proximity, whatever it be, right? So we might not have a hand in everything we do, but we can have a part. And it's so important that we know that we play a critical role in helping people develop into stronger individuals, stronger beings. So our conversation today is just a start, right? If you resonated with Helen, of course, you're going to want to, reach out to her and get those 15 minutes in, because those 15 minutes are going to do wonders for you. You just have to know, is this for me, right? Ask yourself that question. And then if you're a little curious, call her, right? Send her a message, right? And we're going to be getting to that in just a moment, because I'm going to have you share with us any last words and then telling the audience where they can find you.
Thank you, Michael. I think what I want to leave people with is just to, and it kind of adds on what you just said, is just to have compassion with yourself. Because at the end of the day, everything is okay. Sometimes we feel it's not, but I think a big thing, we don't even need anybody to remove this block. We just need to remind ourselves that, be compassionate, be gentle with yourself. There's never going to be an end to it. You're never going to reach that end. I think the biggest thing is just to have that compassion. And then I want to say this is make finding your fulfillment, knowing who and what you are, priority. I do believe that, and that's kind of how I went with my journey. As I thought, what do people want at the end of their lives, or what do they actually kind of realize at the end of their lives? Is all those things didn't really matter. I just wanted to find myself. I just wanted to have peace within myself, that I understood who I was. And I think everybody knows that. And, Socrates said, know thyself. And we read it in all the books, and know yourself and go meditate and find yourself and all this. It's like we hear it, but I think making it a priority is something completely different, is getting to that answer. I think that could be helpful. So you'd prevent having that regret at the end of your life.
And how can people find you?
On my website, you, me, and happiness.com. Everything is there.
And so I will put that website and all her social links there so people can easily find you, follow you, and then, of course, learn a little bit more about what you do, because what you do is unique. You're the first person that I had on that works in this manner. So, of course, you're going to monopolize this field because there's going to be people who are going to resonate with what you were speaking about today. Not everyone's going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if they are your cup of tea, I always encourage you to reach out to them, to begin to work with them, and to begin to change your life. Because what we want is we want you to be in a better place than you are right now. And if you are a little bit lost, don't be afraid to ask for directions. I'm sure Helen doesn't bite. And if she does, it's filled with love. All right. So I want to thank you so much, Helen, for coming on. It's a great conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael. You're so fun. Have a lovely day.